What is good, you guys? It's Lifestyle from lifestyledidit.com, and in today's video I'm going to be going over how to get your 808s to sit better in the mix, how to get them to fill out the low end without overpowering your track, a couple cool tips and tricks you can do to really get your 808s to just sit in the pocket of the mix where they're supposed to be without standing out, but being able to hold on their own and cut through the mix without overpowering and washing everything out. Let's get straight into it. Alright, so this is the beat I have pulled up. Alright, so the first thing that I want to talk about with 808s to get them to sit correctly in the mix is taming transients and taming dynamic range. So even if your 808s are all at the same velocity since a one-shot sample, you would think that it would always peak at the same part, and that is not correct, because when you're playing different notes on an 808, some notes register at a higher frequency because that's all sound is frequency. So C, 32.7 hertz, and these notes and frequencies are going to peak different, so you're not going to have a consistent level on the 808. When you have jumping of transients, especially on bass by 3 or 4 dB on your master limiter, that is going to cause it to actually need to compress and limit more, so you're not going to really be able to push your track as far as you can because you have these 4 to 5 decibel peaks in your 808s, and your kicks and your low end is not tight because of this. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys is if I play this 808, right? This is just a meter. It's easier to look at than it is over here. So if you check out this middle, I have it set to peak. You're going to see we're peaking at different volumes. So let's just press play. This is only on the 808. If I solo it, you'll be able to hear just the 808. So if I reset this, sometimes we're at 11. Now we're at 12. So the highest we're going is like 11.5. And you'll see that it's not staying consistent. Even if you look at it over here, it should stay where my mouse is. It just jumped up by 3 or 4 dB, right? That's something that's going to mess up this 808 sitting correctly in the mix. So a few things that you can do to correct this. The first one that I like to do, I don't even reach for a compressor. I want to smash those transients, especially because I have a kick hitting hard. I don't necessarily care about my 808 having a lot of attack in the beginning of it, right? And I'm probably going to end up sidechaining this a little bit anyway, so that initial transient is going to be hidden. All I'm doing for this 808 is having it fill out the mix. So if you're just using, let's say, like the Spins 808, and maybe you don't have a kick, then you necessarily wouldn't want to limit because you're going to annihilate that initial transient and punch. But if you do it slightly, it can help out a lot. So basically what I'm saying is you're going to come over here, we're going to get a limiter. Any limiter doesn't matter. I'm going to show you guys L1 because I don't like the stock limiter NFL, but you can use it. It's fine. Any limiter's fine. But this one's very easy for you guys to look at. So if I go ahead and press play, 14, right? We just jumped up to 10. We jumped 4 dB because it's peaking when I hit higher notes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of pay attention to what this is registering around the most, and then I'm going to pull down this threshold and ceiling so it can match and it could stay at that. So if most of the time it's peaking at -14, I'm going to make it stay at -14, and anything above that's going to get lowered down to -14. So when it jumps to -10, it's going to limit it and bring it back down to 14 so it stays nice and consistent, and we have a leveled 808 that's just consistently hitting at the same dB the entire song. Let's go around -14. Let's just see what that sounds like, since that's kind of where it's mostly staying around. So if I turn it off, turn it on, you don't even really hear much of a difference, right? It sounds the same. So now if we look over here, our 808's never going to go above this level right here. We set the ceiling to tell it don't go over this, and we pull down our threshold to push into that limiter a little bit. So we're never going to be peaking above this. So now we have a consistent level. We can go crazier with this, and we could pull down the threshold and tell it smash it and stop it at -14.6. But I don't necessarily want to do that. I just want to control that dynamic a little bit and keep it more consistent. So now you'll see we don't have too much jumping going on. Our peaks are pretty much staying around here because that's where we told it to stop, 14.6, right? -14.6. So now we have a bit more control, and when we go on our master limiter, when those other 808 notes are hitting, it's not going to bounce out, and this is going to keep the bass nice and consistent throughout the track. So if I go ahead and play it with the rest of the drums, if we take it off, you're going to see the peaks come back. It's going to jump right now. We just jumped all the way up there. We're not even hearing that, but when you're running that through a limiter on your master track or your soft clipping, whatever you're doing to get loudness on your master, those 4 dB it's jumping are going to matter a lot, because your master limiter or your clipper is going to register that because you're telling it, hey, I want to make my track louder, and it's like, okay, cool, I'm going to start lopping things off so that you can get a consistent volume. And then when the 808 jumps 4 dB over, it's like whoop, and it goes to grab it and pull it down. What that's going to do with the rest of the mix is all of it's going to be together, right? But when that 808 jumps out, the limiter's not going to know, oh, that's just because you hit a higher note. It's just going to take that as there's a jump in the dynamic range, let me grab that, right? So what we did is just control that a little bit and make sure that it's staying consistent. Now, a few other things you can do. So let's say you wanted to make your 808 louder in the track, but you don't want to turn up the volume. And the reason you don't want to turn up the volume is you don't want to wash everything out. But let's say we had it playing, and we like the level of it, and the low end of it was nice, but we're like, man, I want it to be a little more in your face and aggressive. So instead of reaching for the fader knob and turning it up or pulling the threshold down more to get more volume out of the 808, what we can do is send it to another track. So we can go over here, available track, we'll call this 808 distort. And what I'm going to do is take this 808 and I'm going to hover over this 808 distort right here, and I'm just going to right click and I'm going to say out to this track. So now it's going to send a copy of the 808 over here. Obviously that's super loud. If we turn it down, we have our normal 808, right? So over here on this copy, what we're going to do is we are going to put a distortion on it, right? Doesn't matter what distortion you use. We're just going to use fast distortion because it's super aggressive. And find something we like. So this one sounds good to me. It doesn't really matter what we choose right now because I'm just showing you guys how to get this distortion out of it. But the next thing is going to be the most important thing. What we're going to do over here is take an EQ and we're going to cut all the low end out. So we're just going to have this really high end sizzle of this 808 that we created with that distortion. And if I turn it up, you're definitely going to hear it. Right? You're going to hear this. Well, with this EQ, what we can do is literally make some type of distortion that we like. Like I said, you can use any distortion. I just reached for that one because it's fast, but we can create anything we want to do with this. So if we want to go over here and we want to make some type of telephonic, 808 distortion, and we want it to sound like this, we can cut out some of this high end, and we created this nasty weirdness, right? Well, now another thing I'm going to do is control that ginormous peak that we're seeing again. So all I'm going to do is put another limiter on it, and I'm going to bring this down and just control it. Let's see where it's peaking at. I'm going to turn up my out ceiling. I'm just controlling that big peak in sound that we were seeing, right? So let's say we have it like this. If we turn this all the way down, we don't hear anything. We start to bring this in. 808 is sounding way louder, and we didn't mess with any of the volume over here, and we're not really adding too much to the track because we cut all this low end energy out and a bit of the high end. So now we just have this weird distorted sound we created, and we're just mixing it in parallel, right? And since it doesn't have any low end, we cut it all out. We can actually add some weird stuff to this. You can add like a delay to it if you want, or like a reverb. You can get pretty creative with it because this isn't necessarily the 808. This is a duplicated version of the 808, and we cut all the low end energy out. So kind of whatever you want to do, you can get crazy. I don't know if anyone would ever do this, but who cares, because there's no rules to it, right? As long as the phase is good and it sounds cool, use it. So now we have this weird sounding duplicated 808 with reverb, and I actually kind of like how this sounds. Let me exaggerate it so you can hear it. That sounds really weird, but it sounds dope, and it's not doing anything bad because if we were to put the reverb on this 808, I'm going to just show you guys. Yeah, this would sound terrible because this is the whole 808 with all the low end energy in it. That sounds disgusting. But since we duplicated it and we brought it to its own track, I can't even see where it's at anymore. Cut out low end. Now we're really only having this range of frequencies. So yeah, we can add some reverb to it because there's not a super amount of 30 hertz and 40 hertz going on. We cut all that out. That actually sounds really cool, and we can mix it in. Right? So now if we play the whole beat and we take this off, turn it on. Let's over exaggerate it. All right, let's turn it off one more time. And maybe on the hook, we wanted it to sound like this. So you can get really creative when you duplicate and you start using send tracks and you're cutting low end out or high end. You could start to add different effects to it, right? You got to be a little careful. Some things that you add might start to mess with phase, but just make sure you check the phase on it by listening to it and flipping polarity. If you start to hear phase cancellation, you'll know exactly. If you don't know what phase cancellation is, you're definitely going to know what it is when you hear it, because you're going to listen to your 808 and be like, whoa, that sounds weird. Sounds like underwater. It could sound like it loses energy. The low end gets cut out of it. You'll definitely know what phase cancellation is. Go read up on it, but you're going to know when it happens, because you're not going to know what it is if you don't, and you're going to be like, ugh, that sounds weird. What is that? And you're going to Google, find out it's phase cancellation. But right here, we're fine, and it's sounding good. So like I said, we just sent it to a track. We cut out some low end, distorted it, and I added reverb just kind of for fun, to be honest, and it worked out nicely. But the main part of this is if you can control the dynamics of your 808, you can get it to sit in the mix better, because it's not going to be jumping around and peaking like crazy. I ended up really liking this distortion with this reverb though. I've never really done it that much. I've done this like a few times. I've never really put it on a beat, but on this one it actually sounded pretty cool. I would honestly mute this for the verses, and on the hooks turn it on and get something cool going. So hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, leave a thumbs up. You guys can follow me on all social medias at Lifestyle Did It. Make sure to hit my site lifestyledidit.com for everything else. Thank you to everyone that downloaded the free Rise Up, Riser, and Perk kit on my site. If you haven't got it yet, go to lifestyledidit.com/shop and download it. I had a lot of fun making it. I used like a water hose for one of them and my keys for my car, and just made a bunch of like weird perks. And then I made some risers, and I added a Pikachu vocal that I did in auto-tune, and I don't know, it was a fun kit to make. I dropped it for free, so if you guys want that, go ahead and download that. Other than that, subscribe to your boy, push notifications. Thanks.